You can customize who's on your schedule by creating an Amion report in the Rule Writer. When you log in, you see who's on in a resident platform, you see who's on call by default, and you can always click there and choose a different report, but you can also customize what shows up here, and we call that an Amion report. So let me show you what that looks like. Here is a custom report I created earlier called Call, Shift, and All Services. So this would be me trying to capture the whole call schedule, all the shift schedules, and then who's on all the block services for today, April 29th. And as you can see here, this report breaks down the call, the shift, and the block. And I even have these little section dividers that break up the categories. So how you do that is you open up your schedule in the on-call application, go to the window menu, and open your rule writer. In your rule writer, in the top drop down is where you can find a bunch of rules you can create, and the one to select is Amion report. The middle box here is the name of the report. So this is the label you want to give it that makes the most sense to everyone who will be needing to view this report. You can just simply type and make that whatever it is. The bottom drop down are the conditions of this rule. And this is the residency platform. So you're seeing options for rotations and morning and evening clinics. In our attending platform, you might see other options here that we provide in that schedule file. And then when you create this rule, it's represented by these condition icons here. And so if we wanted to quickly review what this Amion report rule is for call, shift, all services, is I can click on these icons and it tells me the red crescent moon represents assignments for call, shift, and I can see it's representing ICU. So this would be call, ICU call. This next section would be the wards. Next section looks like Jeopardy, and then my inpatient chief. Each section, you break it up by these double plus icons that you add using this little icon here, the plus icon. And then you can see if we keep going, we now have different kinds of icons. So the cube icon is referring to the block rotation schedule, what rotations you want to see. The green page is showing you the staff type. So I can see this one is for rotations of PGY1s. This next section would be rotations for 2s, rotations for 3. So that is how this rule was created. And you'll see above some of these pluses are these yellow little note icons. If I mouse over, it says call schedules, and those are called section titles. It allows me to categorize this section. So this would be the call schedules, and then I break it up by shift schedule, and then looks like we have by block service. Okay, so that's what it looks like when a rule is complete. Let me show you how you can create a new Amion report. You click on the blue asterisk on the left, says new rule. You can label this. Let's create an inpatient rule. This would show me block and call assignments for just basically the call schedule, the inpatient services. We'll leave off the shift schedule here. So I'm going to call this maybe inpatient. We'll just call it inpatient to keep it simple. So I've labeled it inpatient. Now, what do I want this report to start with? Let's have it start with the block schedule. So I'm going to click rotation. Now, there's lots of ways you could go about this, and you can get creative on what report you're really after. One idea is maybe you want to view certain rotations by the PGY class, or if you're in an attending platform, by the different staff types you have, maybe providers versus mid-levels. So you could select a rotation and then filter for staff types and choose the staff type you want. So now this would be ICU rotations of interns. To create a new section, I just click this plus twice. And now maybe I want to do 2s and 3s combined for the ICU. Okay, so that's kind of one way how you could break it up, but let's consider another way. I'm going to show you how you can remove a condition. So this little red X is how you remove a condition. So maybe, let me kind of back up here. Let's say you want all PGY classes for breaking it down by the types of rotations or services that you have. So let's say I want to capture the ICU, who's on ICU, and then do a section. And then I want to do the wards section, night float. Okay, so those are my 3 block sections. Um, and then let's move on to the call shift schedules. Let's bring those in. Who's on those? So I'm going to click on call shift. Here are the assignments that belong to those schedule pages. And maybe I want to start with the ICU. So I'm going to select all the ICUs that I want. Section. Let's kind of just do the same thing, right? I'm breaking it down by those little categories I want. Now maybe I want to add in my Jeopardy resident and my who's the chief. If there's any questions, who's the chief resident I can call. So I want to bring them in too. And when you're representing call or shift assignments, it shows as a red crescent moon versus a cube icon for the rotation. Now, another thing I can do here is I can add in section titles that kind of explains these categories I've created. So to do so, you're going to want to right click on one of these plus icons that are before the condition that you want the separator to appear. So I want a little separator section title to appear above that very first call assignment. So I'm going to right click on this plus here and choose section title. And let's just call this the inpatient call. And it's represented with this little post-it note I can mouse over. It says inpatient call. And I want one above my block assignments that explains this. You don't have to, but you certainly can. Now, what I need to do that, though, is I have to add 2 pluses before the cube. So I'm just going to click there and maybe click 2 pluses. And then it's a click and drag. And I'm going to move that back. And I have an extra space here. I don't need that. I'm going to click this remove condition. So now I have a plus plus and then the very first conditional icon. So I'm going to right click on that first plus and I'll call this the inpatient blocks. Well, maybe I'll add assignments. Okay. When I think I'm happy with this rule I've created, let's go ahead and save it and take a look online to make sure it's showing up the way that I would like it to. So let me refresh the screen. If I go to my Who's On and click this drop down, I should now see my new report, -- inpatient. Any custom reports that you build will have that dash before the name, letting you know these are customized reports. Anything after this all services, this is all services talking about your block schedule. And so if you want to see who's on for the entire block of your residents for the current day, you don't need to create a custom report for that. We already have one for you called all services. Okay. And if you want to see, well, who's everyone on my GI rotation, we have that already preset here. So anything that is customized outside of what we offer here will show up at the top of the list. So I want to select my inpatient. Here's my section header I created. That plus plus divider, breaking up the ICU from the wards, from the night float, and then here's my call schedule for those services. Okay, looks like the way I want it, so I'm happy with it. I'm not going to make any changes. And what you can do is you can make this inpatient report your default upon login. So for instance, when I log in right now into this schedule, it takes me to who's on call. So if you want one of these custom reports, let's say you want this call shift all services, right? Maybe this is what you like upon default. Select it, go up to your address URL bar up here where you get the URL address, and you're going to kind of scroll over all the way to the end. And on the very end, you're going to find this and page equals rule list number 3. Highlight starting with the and all the way to the end. So you're capturing and page equals rule list 3. You can right click on that and choose copy, or you can just do the keyboard shortcut of Control V. Now that I've copied that section, I'm going to go back to my on-call schedule, File, Preferences, Amion display. At the very bottom, choose default login string, and you're going to right click and paste that, or Control V to paste that and page equals rule list 3. And now publish. And let's do a test to make sure it's doing what I expect. So let's go back to the home page of Amion. log in as a staff user, and there we go. Who's on upon call, shift, and all services. It's using my custom report. If you have any questions on how to create a custom Who's on Amion report or these default login strings, please reach out to support@amion.com.